Wild horses. Table of contents. Introduction. Long ago, huge herds of horses ran across the plains of the American West. There may have been millions, so many that early maps simply named the area Wild Horses. Wild horses run across part of Wyoming today as much as they did long ago. Thousands of horses still run free. They roam the West in herds, usually far from people. These wild horses are called mustangs. Word-wise, mustangs got their name from the Spanish word musteno, which means stray animal. Most wild horses in the West are handled by the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, a government agency that also manages the wild lands that most of the wild horses live on. In 2013, the BLM managed a total of 33,780 wild horses. Where did wild horses come from? When Spanish explorers crossed the Atlantic Ocean 500 years ago, they brought their horses. Over time, the Spanish left behind some horses. Other horses ran off. The horses learned to live free as wild animals across the American plains. In this painting, Native Americans are amazed to see a horse for the first time. Some Native Americans thought the man and the horse were one animal. Over time, Native Americans tamed some of the wild horses. So did cowboys, who used horses to move large herds of cattle across the land. Other settlers used horses to help with the hard work of making new homes in the West. Once again, many of these tamed horses ran off. Others were left behind when people no longer needed them. Again, they joined herds in the wild. In this 19th century painting by George Catlin, an Osage Indian captures a wild horse. Life of a wild horse. Wild horses live in herds or bands. An adult male horse, called a stallion, leads each herd. The stallion is the mate of several female horses, or mares, who stay with the herd. A wild stallion in Montana prepares to charge. Stallions often charge other stallions that intrude into their territory. Young horses are called foals. When the foals are a few years old, they leave to join a new herd. By playing together, young male horses learn how to grow into stallions that can start their own herds. Young females leave their herds to become the mates of these new stallions. A wild pinto foal eats grass beside its mother. Pinto means spotted in Spanish. It refers to the white pattern on both horses' coats. Wild horses mainly eat grass, but sometimes they browse for leaves. One mare leads the herd to food, water, and shelter. The stallion follows behind to watch for danger. Each herd stays together to raise young horses and help the group. Wild horses by the sea. Wild horses often make people think of the American West, but the wild horses also live in the East. Two wild herds live on opposite ends of Augustus Island of the coast of Maryland and Virginia. Life by the ocean is hard. These horses eat tough marsh plants and know how to survive the stormy weather. Protecting wild horses. In the West, people once depended on tame horses. After the West was settled, they began to think of wild horses as pests. Some of the wild horses were killed so cows and sheep would have more grass to eat. Others were gathered up and sold for meat. In 1925, Hollywood came to southeastern Montana. The casting director rounded up 500 wild horse extras for a movie. In 1971, a law was passed to protect wild horses from harm by humans. That law is the Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act. Burros are wild donkeys. Since then, the number of free wild horses in the United States has grown twice as large. Now, thousands of wild horses roam free in 10 western states. Horse hero. For years, wild horses were caught and killed by the hundreds. Then along came a Nevada woman named Velma Johnston, nicknamed Wild Horse Annie. Thousands of schoolchildren joined Wild Horse Annie to write letters to Congress. Thanks to them, the law protects wild horses today. Velma Johnston stands with one of the mustangs she rescued around 1976. Wild horses today. Although wild horses in the United States are protected by law, herds can grow too quickly. So for now, hundreds of horses are caught and removed from the wild each year. Some of these are adopted by people who will take care of them. Horses that don't find homes right away sometimes wait in fenced areas called corrals. Others go to live in wild horse sanctuaries where they are still have wide spaces to roam. A helicopter herds horses toward a fence in Colorado. Experts disagree about whether or not helicopters should be used in roundups. The Black Hills Wild Horse Sanctuary. In 1988, Oregon rancher Dayton Hyde bought some land near Hot Springs, South Dakota. Then he convinced the Bureau of Land Management, the federal agency that oversees wild horses, to send him the horses they couldn't find homes for. He took horses that, in his words, were either too old, too ugly, or too independent for adoption and gave them a new, wide-open home in the Black Hills. A number of other sanctuaries around the country also protect wild horses. Many give tours that raise money to help pay for the care of the horses. Many people are working to make sure some wild horses can always run free. They are why beautiful herds can still thunder across the West, the land those herds call home. Science in the wild. Herds can double in size every 4 years. Scientists have created a special shot that keeps wild mares from having so many babies. This tool may help keep herds smaller, so fewer horses must be captured from the wild. Wild mares are released back into the Wyoming range after getting a shot that helps keep wild horse numbers down. Glossary.